All right, everyone, I appreciate you all being here today to join us to learn about Docusign. This is our 101 class, so we're going to be going through, a little more setup and basically the steps for connecting your Docusign, sending out documents, and then pulling those documents back into Command for compliance reasons. We'll touch on a few ways to merge documents and split documents. We'll also talk about adding a third assigner and what are pre-tagged roles so that when you tell the system who buyer one is and buyer two is, or seller one, seller two, those signature fields and dates, etc., automatically get put on the contract, so we don't have to do them ourselves. Save a lot of time. So out of curiosity, if you guys don't mind typing into the chat, just curious what you guys are using for e-signature right this second. If it's something other than Docusign, just curious what you guys are using. I will bring this up a couple of times, the image that you guys see right now, but that is to join our Facebook group. I'm going to post the link in there as well. And then the second link that I'm pasting right now is going to be to our training drive. This has a lot of recordings from previous classes in there for you to go back and review. Trainings are usually uploaded in there about an hour or so after we finish the training. Again, if you guys have some questions, don't be afraid to jump off of mute, type them in the chat. I've got them up on my left side to follow along with you all. Okay, so again, we've got a lot of people in the lab today. I had scheduled this ahead of time, but that is not a problem. If you guys missed lab today with the region, we'll be breaking that recording up into a few segments and sending it out to everybody as well. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we are going to want to do is to connect our Docusign account. So we will come up here in the top right of command. Again, we've got to command by going to agent.kw.com. So as it says, it's your first month with KW. So awesome. I love seeing you in trainings. And like I said, there's a lot to take in when you're a new agent. Just kind of identify those first few things that you really want to learn. And a lot of things you guys see in my trainings, when you need that help implementing it, you've got to mark it in a tech trainer in your office. Reach out to them and say, hey, I'm trying to build my database and I got the basics down. I just need a little bit of help from you. And they'll sit down one-on-one and definitely get you to the finish line. Okay. And don't be afraid to ask questions. There's a lot of people willing to help you. That's part of our culture here at Keller Williams. So we are going to go into settings. And the first thing we're going to do, we are going to connect our Docusign. So right now you can see that we have Docusign connected already. For you guys that don't have Docusign connected, you'll scroll down a little and one of these titles should say signature services, I believe. And so you're going to hit connect account on your Docusign. And then the next screen it's going to ask you will be, what email address would you like to use with your Docusign? I do really encourage you to use your kw.com email address. If you already have that email address associated with a paid Docusign account, then you will not be able to use that account right here. This is a Keller Williams Docusign account, and so Keller Williams version of Docusign, sorry. So if you've already been using it in the past and paying, just use a personal email address. You will then get sent an email to that email address that you listed, and it's going to ask you to verify your email, and then it's going to ask you to set up a password and set up a security question as well. Once you've completed those steps, you will then look just like I do on my screen for Docusign being connected. And that's where we want to begin. So if you guys imagine command is over here and Docusign is over here, we need the two to talk to one another. And it's very simple the way we get them to talk to one another, and that is through an opportunity. Okay. if you go straight into Docusign.com and create a room, you can use all the functions within that room, but you haven't connected it to Command, and so you're going to have to do a little extra work downloading those documents and re-uploading those documents. So we're going to start off by basically going into an opportunity, and we're going to go ahead and create it. Now, again, we talked about this in regional day-to-day. We're really looking at this screen right here as our pipeline, okay? And so technically speaking, if I'm ready to write an offer with a buyer, there's a good chance that buyer should have been in my pipeline maybe a few weeks ago, a month ago, and had the opportunity created right then and there. Again, it doesn't always work in a perfect world. So for this one, we're going to go ahead and create the opportunity. And remember, we have already added the buyer or the seller as a contact in our database, because you can see right here, it's actually going to ask us who the clients are. And so, of course, at that top, that's going to be our market center. We don't change that unless you guys are affiliated with more than one market center. Only way that's possible is if you are a member in 2 different states. The next box, and guys, this is really, really important to pay attention to, even though it seems very, very basic. You're selecting between a listing and a buyer. Once you select this and move on, you cannot change it. Okay, if you create a buyer opportunity, you can't just flip it to a seller opportunity. You'll have to archive that opportunity and create a new one with the correct type. So we're going to select buyer. Then the next thing we're going to do, we are going to select our client. So again, just type in a few letters and it will bring up this client's name for us to be able to click on. I'm going to add a second buyer as well, because there's a few things once we're inside of Docusign that I'm just going to walk through with you best practices when you see 2 or more buyers. Now, we get the question a lot, I've got 3 people that I need to put on my contract, and Command is only letting me add 2 people. And on Command side, you will only have 2 people in the opportunity, but on Docusign side, we can add as many additional signers as we want to, and we'll in fact add a 3rd signer when we're in Docusign. That way I can show you the difference between using pre-tagged roles and having to manually assign all the signature and initial fields if you don't use that option. So when it comes to opportunity name, we really want you guys to be naming this the address. Main reason we want that is that's one of the first things compliance sees is the address. And if you call your office and say, hey, I need a little help with the opportunity, they're always going to ask you, what's the address? And if they can search it through opportunity name, then that is ideal for them and you. So start off with the address. It doesn't have to be city, zip code, and state, street number, street name. And then after that, you can put whatever you want. If it helps you remember it by the name of the client, then just put that after the street address and that will be perfect. A little bit of extra information gets asked just here. This is really just for projecting. Over here, we can see we have potential and probable income. And so when we create an opportunity, it wants to know a budget and a commission rate just to kind of start estimating those numbers for us. Again, cultivate phase and stage. These are your phases right here, and you have different stages within it as well. That is if you guys are really wanting to use this pipeline tool at a high level, then in the link above, check out the Google Drive, and there's a set goals class, and we dive in a little deep on this. What happens if you do not have an agreement yet? That's a great question, Terry, because I just said ideally we use this as a pipeline, meaning we don't know what home that buyer is going to buy yet. So it's just going to be, Heath buyer. And then the next button we're going to hit is create. And so you'll see your opportunity, and the opportunity name is right here. Once you put them under contract, you can just click this little edit pencil, and right up the top middle is opportunity name. You can just rename it just there. Again, doesn't that's something we really ask just because it makes it just a little simpler. If you guys miss having the correct opportunity name, No one's going to be mad at you. You may just get a little message saying, hey, don't forget to try to use the street address as the opportunity name. But I agree, you'll come back after and edit that if you can remember. That would help a lot. Thank you for asking that. So now we are right here inside of our opportunity. And the next thing we're going to go to is over here in the Documents tab. And from within the Documents tab, just here. Christine, is that on my screen or your screen that you're looking at?
That's my screen.
Are you able to take a little screenshot and paste it into chat for me real quick? There's sometimes where you could there is a, on all opportunities screen just here, where you see it more as a list view. On the left side with your name is more of the pipeline of view.
Okay, this says, so all opportunities is check mark. Should I uncheck it?
I'm honestly not sure what screen you're in.
Okay, all right. Let me see if I can do a screenshot.
If you can paste it, if not, I'll hang around afterwards and help you with it for sure.
Okay, okay.
Thank you for jumping on to say something though. So we created the buyer one. I'm just going to jump back into that tablet. I'm right here under Documents. So this is the view of a compliance screen. And so from here on the left side, you guys can see that we have your different folders: consultation, under contract, and closed. Now I created a buyer opportunity, so we're really only paying attention to the under contract in this example. Had we created a seller opportunity, this top one would say listing, and that would be the documents between you and the seller, and under contract will be the documents between the seller and the buyer. And so from within under contract right here, you guys can see all the different compliance documents we have. Now we've broken these apart for a while now. We break these apart for compliance reasons and audit reasons. We need to be able to provide documents extremely quickly under an audit. And compliance needs to really be able to thoroughly check your documents to protect you. So it seems like a little bit of a nuisance and work, but when you get that $5,000 fine from the Real Estate Commission because something was missing, all of a sudden that little extra work would be more than worth it. And so the main thing that we want to look at right now is this Start a Transaction button. Right in the beginning, I said that Command and Docusign are two different things. However, we need to link the two, and hitting Start a Transaction from within the opportunity is how we link the two together. So when we hit Start a Transaction, that button will then change to Go to a Transaction. The good news is once you click Start a Transaction once, you've started a room already, and you can go directly into Docusign from here on out because the two are already connected. So we're going to go ahead and sign in. Typically speaking, Docusign does ask you about once a day to sign in. The main reason they ask that is just for security. But of course, you can save your password. So our main goal is to load documents into Docusign and have them ready for signature. And then back here on the command side, when we go to upload the documents, we want to be able to see everything that we have inside of Docusign. Because what we don't want to do, we don't want to download everything from Docusign and then upload everything from our computer, because that is some extra steps. So we're here inside of a Docusign, and we're going to take just a second to talk about what you will do if you've never used Docusign or been inside of Docusign before, because we need to link your NRDS number so that your forms will appear and populate. And there's many ways you can find out your NRDS number. Just know you will not have an NRDS number if you have not yet joined a board and become a realtor. That link that I'm posting in the chat right now. If you go to that and put in your name and I think it's your last name and your license number, it will pull your NRDS number for you. If you just go into your email and type in NRDS, there's probably one in there from when you joined the board, and you get a monthly realtor magazine that has your NRDS number right on the front middle. I think it's still the front middle of that magazine. So we're going to go up into the top right and you click your initials. I do work out of my wife's Docusign account. So you'll click those and we will go into preferences. You do want to see this KW logo right here. If you don't see the KW logo, it won't say switch to e-signature. It'll say something else. It'll say switch to rooms. You want to go ahead and click that. Everybody should have the default setting to be in rooms already. And you'll go right here to preferences. So again, we're in Docusign. We've clicked our initials. We've gone preferences. The bottom left over here says integrations. So we're going to click that. Now, again, I am already connected and I don't love disconnecting and reconnecting Docusign for connectivity issues, especially when I'm about to be into Docusign. But right here, when you'll hit add a provider, you will then select a realtor. And when you select realtor, it's going to ask you for your NRDS number, and it's going to ask you what board of realtors do you belong to. So, we have a bunch of them in the Metro Atlanta area from, NAMAR, which is like North Atlanta Metro Realtor Association. We have DeKalb, we have Walton Barrow. So select the one that you belong to, enter your NRDS number, hit confirm, and then it will then show a provider as the National Association of Realtors. If you're having trouble with that connectivity, let me know. Let your Market Center tech trainer know, and we'll definitely share a screen with you to make sure that it is connected and ready to be used. So now that we are happy with our integrations and we have connected Docusign, we are back right now in the screen from when we hit start a transaction right up here, or if we hit go to transaction right now, we will be looking at this screen right here. So we're going to spend just a couple minutes talking about what the different tabs are, and then we're going to pull in documents, put a few, fill out just a little, and then send them off for e-signatures and to talk about just a couple of little shortcuts. So we will be done on time or a little bit early today from today's class. The details section. This section right here is really important. The main part that is important is going to be here on the right side. So you can see right now it says seller 1. I'm going to scroll down. It says seller 2. If I keep scrolling down, I want to get to the point where it says buyer 1, name, phone number, email, and a buyer 2. The main reason that I want those is when we hit pre-tag roles in a minute, and that will make sense once we click it, we want it to be able to pull all this information in for us. So again, we already had the contacts added inside a command, and when we created that opportunity, we told it that Stuart and Colin were the buyers, and it automatically populated the email addresses for us, so we shouldn't really have to do too much here. As I scroll back up here in the middle, there's a bunch of information that we can fill out right here as well about the contract, and then it will populate into the contract for us. I prefer just to do it inside of the contract, and I'll kind of show you why in a minute, and it will transfer over. So when I type in, offer amount of X, if there's other documents that have that exact same field, it'll end up in all of them. When I write the address in the purchase and sale, the address is going to appear in the conventional exhibit, the backup exhibit, and any other documents that we've added that have the address field in it. So I'm happy that I've got my 2 buyers connected. The next tab, documents. When I add some documents, the contracts in just a minute, this is where the documents will appear. So if we ever need to, we sent something out for signature and it was wrong, we will edit it in the document section, and we are actually going to pull back a document after we send it and make a correction. In about a month's time, we'll be able to do that, Terry. Right now in FMLS, and when I was selling, I used FMLS for years because I could type in the MLS number and it would pre-populate a lot of information for us. That is a Docusign permission that they must figure out what the MLS is, and it is very, very close to being figured out, and that will save us all a lot of time. There are also things called templates inside of Docusign. We're not quite going to cover those today. I do have a video on it though. What a template is, if you imagine an overlay, for those that were in school and they had overhead projectors that projected the big light onto the wall, and you put a little clear piece of paper, plastic, whatever it was, and you wrote on top of it. And if you remove that piece of plastic, the writing disappeared. Well, a template is that. So for example, if you had a buyer brokerage agreement and you fill out the exact same thing on the buyer brokerage every time except the date, then you could have a buyer brokerage template, pull in a buyer brokerage, click template, and it will overlay it, and it will fill out, the number of your commission rate, number of protective days, things like that. So it's really, really repetitive. When it comes to like your agent information on a purchase and sale, you could create that as a template. But in terms of the agent on the other side of the transaction, right now we are typing that in ourselves. And even though it's really easy to not type that in ourselves, guys, and just send it, in today's market, we want to do anything we can to help our buyers win a home. And for me, that means going into the MLS and filling out the agent's name, brokerage info, phone number, etc. Why? Because I want the other side to think that I am a great agent to work with, and I'm going to be easy to work with. If I send them all their stuff blank, they may or may not think anything of it. But again, anything I can do to help my buyer, help them win their dream home, and also get them under contract quicker so we don't have to show them anymore, I am going to do it. The people tab just here, again, that's basically anybody that is inside of the room already. And of course, we can add people. KW is always going to be in here, and you as the agent will be as well. We don't have people inside of it just yet because we haven't added them as roles inside the contract. Envelope will be in here in just a little bit. Once we sent something out for signature, this is where the document will then be. The great news is when we send something out for signature and it gets signed, we get an email saying, hey, your document is ready and signed, and we just pull it straight from that email as well. Messages and history, pretty self-explanatory just there. So next thing to look at is this little add button. And this is where we are going to go and find our contracts. So when we hit add, these are all the different sources where we can add from. In just a little bit, we're going to run through the scenario of I'm a listing agent, and or we're either agent, and we get sent a complete binding contract with all 5 documents merged together, and we're going to split them real quick. That will be the last thing we do. And we will pull that from the computer. The computer is the files on my laptop on my computer. Right here where it says Docusign forms, that is where we are going to click. And we're going to pull in just a few agreements. So I'm going to go into GAR, and I'm going to pull up the purchase and sale agreement. Now I knew that it was F201, so I typed in 201. You could type in purchase and sale, anything to find it. So we'll check that. I'm going to pull in a conventional exhibit as well. And I'm going to pull in a backup agreement. Again, I always love to pull in the backup agreement because there's a lot of agents that don't know what a backup agreement is, and they don't know what it's used for. And we will check it out in just a minute because I always want you guys to be learning something. So right here, you can see we now have 3 different contract items inside of our Documents tab. And the first thing we're going to do, we're just going to go ahead and fill out just a few lines of the contract. We're not going to make you guys sit here and watch us fill out a complete contract. So, first thing, we're going to type in the date of the offer. We're going to type in the address. So $400,000, that got pulled in from our budget. So we will have to make sure that we do update it if that's what our offer is going to be. That's all I'm going to fill out for now, but let's just scroll to the back page real quick. And you'll notice again that we have our buyer name. Now, myself personally, I'm not going to give any contact information to the other side of the transaction to enable them to get in touch with my clients. Us as compliance and as an office, I will have a buyer brokerage with this buyer or both these buyers, and I will have the buyer's contact information within that buyer brokerage. We have to have their phone number and email and physical address in a buyer brokerage, because if your buyers default on a contract, we have to notify them legally of some certain actions they will need to take, and that will protect you as an agent. If we can't get in touch with the buyer, then we've got a little bit of an issue in terms of notifying them. So I always just remove the personal information. The listing agent doesn't need to contact my buyer. So I'm going to hit save and close. And Cicely, what are you trying to edit right this second?
I have a sales agreement and an offer actually that I made, and they want some changes made to the contingencies and the sale agreement.
Cool. So we're going to finish this and we're going to send it out, and then we're going to void it and pull it back in and make those changes real quick and send it back out. That's what we're going to do today, okay? But inside of the Documents tab is where that will live, because inside of your Documents tab, once these are signed, it will actually duplicate a copy of it. And so right now it says GAR Purchase and Sale Agreement F201. Once I've sent this out for signature and it's been signed, there will be a second copy of this in here that then says -signed. So if I ever need to make any edits, I don't jump into the signed one. I jump into my original GAR Purchase and Sale Agreement, just double click like I just did, and I'll just make those changes from within there. And again, we'll do that in just a few minutes. So we added some info to the purchase and sale. If I click on the conventional exhibit just really quickly, you'll see a few things came over. Now, not a ton of stuff transferred because they're different fields. We got our property address, etc., as we will name here. Just as a side note for you guys to remember, always great to be in our Monday broker calls to learn this kind of stuff. Very important that we know information that goes here, right? Because if we ever have to have a loan denial for a buyer, and if we said that our buyer was going to finance 90%, meaning they're going to put 10% down, that's what we put right here. If we get a loan denial letter from a lender, and that lender actually said that the loan they applied for was a 3.5% down loan, they may not be eligible to get their earnest money back because the terms did not match. So in that example, I'd need to ask the lender to give me a loan denial letter that did not state the terms of the down payment or the interest rate. And if I'm working with a preferred lender that I do business with, I would expect that from my preferred lender. And if they said I can't produce one without that, then that will be the last time I work with that lender. But again, very important that you know this information. A lot of agents don't know that the terms of a loan denial letter from a lender, really from an underwriter, has to match what it states just here. Just like where it says approved mortgage lenders. If I get a loan denial from Quicken Loans, because they love to deny loans, but right here I had Supreme Lending listed, I didn't say that I could get a loan denial from Quicken Loans. I said I would be getting a loan denial from Supreme Lending. And so you can leave this box blank, but leaving that blank semi tells the other side that you could possibly be undecided, and the other side may ask you to fill that out. If I was a listing agent and I got an offer and it was blank right here, I would let the other side know, I would like this part filled out so we know who you're getting financing with. And if their answer is, well, we haven't decided yet, that's a little bit of a red flag. And in today's market, a home priced correctly, we should have enough options to be able to find a strong buyer and negotiate with that buyer. So is there anything I wanted to show you inside of the conventional exhibit? We're going to touch on the backup agreement just here for if you guys are not aware of what it is. So you can attach a backup agreement to your original offer. If you guys don't win an offer, it's always great to call the listing agent, find out what you could have done differently and said, are you guys willing to negotiate a backup agreement? And what a backup agreement will be, if the current primary contract terminates and you guys have an accepted backup agreement, that home will not go back on the market. Your buyer will now be the primary buyer because the initial contract terminated. And so with a backup agreement, you guys actually fully negotiate the deal. You guys sign the purchase and sale and you sign the exhibits. And this backup agreement exhibit is one of them that is signed. And it basically says, even though you are binding in a contract, you are not the primary agreement, you are the secondary agreement. And in order to be the primary agreement, we will send you the termination of the current contract and it will slide you right into the primary position. And now all of your contingencies will start. So in this market, a lot of homes come back on the market because buyers make fast decisions. Buyers make offers without seeing homes because they're desperate. And so if my buyer is negotiated as a backup and that first person terminates, I've just won the deal for that buyer. And the buyer is going to think that you're their hero because the last agent they worked with didn't even mention a backup agreement because they did not know what it is. And so you can put a time limit on it. Again, I'm going to have due diligence anyway. So if we go find another home, it's good to terminate this backup agreement. But if I forgot, I have that due diligence. The most important thing to remember about a backup agreement is it must be a part of the contract. So it must be checked on, I believe it's page 7 of the purchase and sale, backup agreement, exhibit, D. Because if you guys go sign a purchase and sale and you don't have a backup agreement in place, that seller now has agreements with 2 people, and that's not a good thing to have happen if you are the listing agent. So again, if you need more help with a backup agreement, reach out to your coach, your mentor, somebody in your office, and it is a great tool for everybody to use in today's market and every market. So we are going to pretend that we just finished writing and filling out those contracts. And again, if you guys are not familiar with contracts, make sure that you're in Ignite. Make sure that you come into contract classes. It's a big fiduciary responsibility that we have here to know the contracts and know how to write a contract. And when a listing agent gets 10 offers on their home, if I'm the listing agent and I get 10 offers on my home, I guarantee you that 4 of those offers are written poorly or incorrectly, and they're going to not really stand the best chance of winning the home. If your offer isn't written correctly and my offer is written correctly and all the terms are the same, the listing agent is going to want to work with me because my documents are written correctly, and it just makes you look a little better. So don't go writing your contracts by yourself if you don't know how. There's a lot of people in your office and the coach is ready to help you. So I just went through and I checked right when you hover over a document, a little bubble will appear in the top left, and I checked them. And when I hit those check marks, you guys will see that right here we had a menu that appeared. And so in this example, we are getting ready to send them out for signature. So right here where it says create envelope, where you see the little pen, that is what we want to click. And when we click that, we're going to be in the first step of creating an envelope. And the envelope is really easy. Don't be intimidated by this. So we can name it. You don't have to name it if you don't want to. Whatever the default is, I think it said, please Docusign. From this screen right here, we will rearrange the contracts. So I want the purchase and sale to be first. So I'm just going to drag it over. And now I've just rearranged them. So the purchase and sale will be first, conventional, backup, etc. If I forgot to add a document, I can come right here and hit more and upload something. and add something additional if I did forget to. The next step is the most important step to remember in Docusign. It's the most frustrations that everybody has. Whenever someone tells me that they hate Docusign, it takes so long to send an offer, I ask them to show me them writing an offer, and this is the stage they don't do, and it will take you a lot longer to write an offer if you do not click this. Pre-tag roles, so I clicked add recipient and pre-tagged roles. Again, pre-tag roles, most important thing you can do in Docusign, because this screen explains it all. Buyer 1, I'm going to check it, and it's going to ask me, who is buyer 1? Well, that person's buyer 1. So now, in all 3 of those contract documents, wherever there is somewhere for buyer 1 to initial or sign, it's going to automatically assign those spots, and I'm not going to have to drag or add anything. It's going to ask me who is buyer 2. It's going to ask me who is the buyer's agent. And I will hit add selected. So right here you can see that 3 people appeared to sign, and they all have 1s next to each other. So you can send it all out. That's basically the signing order. Now there's occasional documents where the lead-based paint exhibit is a great example of this. The seller has to sign first. Why? Because it's a disclosure. The seller has to disclose lead-based paint information before your buyer can agree to it. If your buyer signs the lead-based paint agreement first before the seller does, and we get audited, guys, it's going to be the biggest fine you've had in real estate. Okay, it can be up to about $20-something thousand. The buyer cannot sign a lead-based paint exhibit first. That's why we have all of these compliance things right here, because if the buyer does sign it first, compliance will absolutely catch that and tell you, you need to redo your lead-based paint exhibit, because the buyer signed first and the buyer can't agree to something that the seller hasn't disclosed. We said that we were going to run through an example of adding a 3rd buyer. Again, inside a command opportunity, it asks you who's a buyer 1, buyer 2. Right now, where it says add recipient, I'm going to select email address, and I will add their name. I will add their email. And they are now an additional signer. Now there's no pre-tag role for this person, so I will be dragging across signature fields in just a second, okay? So again, what we did here, we labeled the envelope. We rearranged the documents just here to make sure that they were in the correct order. We clicked add recipient and we selected pre-tagged roles and identified who the buyers were. This is just the message that will be in the email. So it's going to be the email subject line. Signed offer. Now, again, one thing I always tell everybody that right now, when I send this in a minute, this should not be the first time this buyer's ever seen a contract. This shouldn't be the first time I've ever talked to a buyer about a contract. We have a buyer brokerage. We have a buyer consult before we start looking for homes, and we walk through a little bit of the contract. We give them the contract. We talk about the highs and the lows, because right here, right now, if I send this to them and we've never even talked about contract or what things mean, they may have a ton of questions, which is that's very legitimate. I would want them to have questions. And I may also have an offer deadline of in 45 minutes that I need to get this thing signed and over to the listing agent by. And I don't want a buyer signing when they don't understand something. So it's all about setting expectations, and going through certain contract things up front will help make them make a quicker decision when they do find the right home. So from here, we are going to go next. And we're going to be back into the document screen, seeing all the documents that we just created. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to scroll down, and we can notice just here, there's already 2 initials assigned. How do these get assigned? We told them who buyer 1 was, and we told them who buyer 2 was. Now, in this example, we have buyer 3. In the top left, you can see agent, buyer 1, buyer 2. Here is the buyer that I added. I'm going to click that, and you see we all have our own color. Now, if you didn't select pre-tag roles, you'll do what I'm about to do here for every single one of your buyers. So I'm going to click the little initial. I'm going to drag it over. Doesn't really matter what the size is, but I dragged it over. We're then going to continue down on the right side here. I'm just going to go straight to the last document. You can see it already has buyer, all these things assigned. It even has the agent's signature field assigned to it as well. Now you may ask, where do I put the third buyer? There's no room here. Good question. It doesn't really matter. Try to put it somewhere that makes sense. Technically, you can write a contract on a napkin, and if it says terms and there's signatures on it, that's a binding contract. So in this example, I'll probably put, maybe I'm putting it right here, the signature. I'm putting the text here of their name. Again, there is no perfect scenario when it comes to adding a third person, because our contracts are only written for 2 people. And so that's kind of a limitation that we get put on from the state, no matter what software we're using. But have it in the right general area. Like I said, as we go down here, we're going to continue to fill information out. Maybe I realized I actually didn't put a number of days here under the appraisal contingency. Not a mistake I want to make, that's for sure. So we can just grab a really simple text box. Now, right now I have that text box under one of the buyers. And over here on the right side, I can select whether it's a required or read only. I'm going to delete it because I would much prefer to add a text box as me, the agent, because I'm not going to go in and edit that text box. If I assign it as a buyer and I don't change it to read only, they would then technically have the option to edit that. And I don't want the buyer editing anything in the contract because they may not mean to, and I may not catch it, and that wouldn't be good. So again, I don't want to show you guys writing the whole contract. We've added the information, we've reviewed it. We reviewed it a couple of times. If you guys are newer agents or any agent, I guarantee you your productivity coach and your mentor would love to review this contract for you before you send it to your buyer or seller. It will take somebody about 1 minute, 2 minutes max to review a contract for you to give you the confidence that it's written well and correctly, and you can send it to your clients. I once made a mistake in an offer. I was working with a really good friend. We actually were having a really hard time getting under contract, and I actually put 1 too many zeros in the purchase price, and I didn't catch it. And my friend texted me back and said, and he highlighted it, and he said, I bet we'll win the home with this offer. And of course, we had to change it. And I'll show you how we're going to change it in a minute. But we've finished writing this, and we have the send button up top and down bottom. And once we hit send, okay, well, it doesn't like the email address I made up. Apparently, it can tell that it's not a real email address. I may have spelled Gmail wrong, although I didn't think I did. But that's what it's telling me right there. It's an invalid email address. So we're going to send it and pretend that it just sent out. No, just kidding. I didn't have an email address just there for some reason. But either way, you guys saw what we were going to do just there. We were going to go ahead and send it out, and then your clients will get an email saying, please Docusign, or please sign the offer, because that's what we titled the subject. And in my opinion, Docusign on the receiving end is the most intuitive e-signing platform that there is. It's very obvious where you click to start it. It goes to where you are supposed to sign, and Docusign is very easy for the consumer to read. Some of the other e-signature platforms out there, if they want to actually read stuff, it's very awkward within the signing part of it. And we end up emailing them specifically. So now you guys can see we have a document tab just here. And these are the documents that we wrote. Right over here on the envelope, that is the document that we have created and sent out for signature. Again, I didn't actually send it out, but it would say waiting for signature. And then what I would be able to do, well, let's just go ahead and send it out because it's been a pain right this second. Once we clicked on that envelope just there. All right, what are we doing here? I think it's detecting that I'm making up email addresses here. Once we send it out for signature and we are in that envelope screen, we will have, so we just hit send and you can see it says needs my signature. We're going to go ahead and click on it. And from here, we can do several things. The first thing that you can see, we have the ability to sign it. We're going to click that in just a second. Right here under more. So Sislin, I believe you asked about making some changes. So we've sent them a document and they notice, hey, let's change a couple of things about it. We can go ahead and just resend. We can edit it and resend it. But what the buyer might do, they may click on the wrong link and sign the old one. And then we got to call them and say, hey, sorry, I sent, we signed the wrong one. We don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do, I will have the option to void it, and they will get an email just saying, hey, we pulled that document back. And, in the comment, I'll just write, resending you, contract in 1 minute. And that's what I would do. First, I'm just going to show you signing it as an agent. So we click sign. It's going to tell us who we are and continue. And right up in the top left, when we hit start, it's going to take us automatically to where we need to sign. And you can see it took me to that text box there. So had I not assigned it as an agent and I had assigned it as a buyer and not checked read only, the buyer would have had the ability to change that, and we don't want that. So I signed it and I have finished it. I will be linking my YouTube channel in just a second for you guys, so you will have the ability to view these in step-by-steps. And again, this class is being recorded as well. So we've signed it. We're waiting on our clients to sign it. When they do sign it, we're getting an email saying document is complete, and it'll be attached right there at the bottom, and we'll hit download, and we will then email it to the listing agent. Again, within Docusign, within the other signatures, you can, when we create that envelope, we could add the agent's name, the agent's email, and where it says needs to sign on the right side, we could change needs to sign to receive a copy. And once everyone's signed, it will then send that agent a copy. But I really encourage you guys not to do that. One, e-signature links can get put in spam. And I don't want my client making a great offer and then the agent, when I finally talk to them in a week's time, saying, I never got your offer. And it turns out it went to spam. Why? Because they weren't looking for an e-signature link. I'm going to download it. I'm going to write a personal email to them talking about my client, why they're amazing, why the home's amazing, why their financing is strong, and why we're going to be great to work with. Before that, I've already picked up the phone and talked to the agent as well and asked them, hey, is there anything specific that your seller's looking for in our offer? Because we want to be as strong as possible. Now, of course, everybody knows that, well, they want the most money. They don't want to pay closing costs. That's all fine. But what if the seller says, or the listing agent says, thanks for asking that. My seller, my seller, they got a lot of stuff in this house. And if they're feeling really stressed, if they could get a closing that's 60 days out, then that would be really beneficial to them. Well, if I never asked that question, I might write 40 days there. So what happens if I wrote 60 days and all the other offers didn't ask that and they wrote 40 days? Well, they may like my offer just because that one term that was important to them was in it. And they come to me and say, hey, we really like your offer. You're just a few thousand short of winning the home. And then it's up to my buyer whether they go ahead and do it or not. No, I don't think you can void it after it's been signed. So if they've already signed it, just make sure that you remind them, you'll be receiving a new link at the top of your email. Please just make sure you click that link. So obviously, if they click the old link, the document would already be signed, so they wouldn't be able to re-sign anything. But in this one, I am going to go ahead and void it, and you can see reason for voiding. That's my nice way of saying I made a little mistake on the contract and I need to resend it to you. And then, so for you, Cicely, from the envelope, you're going to jump back into the documents and you'll click on the purchase and sale again right here. And you'll make the changes that you need to make. So maybe, they've decided to go 415 instead of 410. And I'll save and close. If you're doing FHA, just remember that the FHA financing exhibit under appraisal says an appraised amount. A big mistake a lot of agents make. We're countering on the purchase and sale, and we're up in the price and up in the price, but we forget to go to the financing exhibit for FHA and up the price of the appraisal amount. Because if we don't do that and we get an appraised amount between the two, our buyer is going to be responsible for paying it, or someone's going to be responsible for paying it. And so now we have these 3 documents right here. We're going to pull them into Command real quick. And then we're going to jump back in and upload a full contract, and we're going to split it apart and pull them into Command again. So again, you'll notice that the name of my room just here matches the name of this opportunity. And now on this right side, this is fairly new this week. If you guys have not been inside of opportunities this week, it says attach files from my computer. I'm going to change that to Docusign. And then on the right side, you'll see we've got all these little drop-down menus to assign it. So purchase and sale, select. Had it been signed, it would say GAR purchase and sale F201-signed. And I would simply click on it and it would be there. Again, I just voided that. I avoided that contract. That's the main reason that it is not here. I got to remember next time to not actually click void. I would then come down to the exhibit and there would be my financing exhibit, and I would just click select, and then it will be loaded right here. And if I clicked on it, I will be able to see it. I'll do that in just a second. And vice versa, we're assigning it. Once a document has been assigned to one spot, you can't assign the same document to another spot. If you have a ton of random documents, maybe it's new construction, you can come right here and hit add custom folder. Maybe we name it additional documents. And you can just upload things to this custom folder. Try to have the document name relevant so compliance knows what it is. And then the most important step that you've got to remember is this submit to Market Center button. Now, right now, I don't have any documents attached, so I can't submit it to Market Center, but we don't know that you have a contract unless you hit submit. So that is basically sending the documents out and pulling them back in. One thing that a lot of agents get hung up on is we've got a fully binding contract and it's 20 pages long, but it's all one document. And according to command, we need to split that document up so that it matches these little fields. And a lot of people have trouble splitting. I'm about to show you the easiest way you can ever split a document, and it's in Docusign. Again, I'm in the same room that's connected. This time I'm going to add a document from my own personal computer. If I hit download from my email of the offer, it will be right here in downloads. and then I'll upload it. And you'll see right here, I have my offer. I am going to right click on it. And right here, you can see the word split. So we right click on the document and we hit split. And this right here shows us that we have 19 pages. And I know that the purchase and sale is page 1 through 8. So I'm going to type in purchase and sale. The next box asks me what pages relates. And those are the 8. I'm going to add document. The next 3 pages, that's my conventional. And that is page 9 through 11. Let's see, my next one is my backup. That is page 12. My seller's disclosure is page 13 through 19. So again, I right clicked on the document, I hit split. We were in this screen, I just told it what pages were what. And when I hit save and we go back into the document, you'll see right here, this is the full document with all the exhibits merged together that we received and uploaded. And then this one, this one, this one, and this one is the broken apart document. And so if we went back into command and we hit purchase and sale, for some reason I'm not connecting here right this second. There we go. So once we hit purchase and sale, you'll see those were the documents that I just had in there and split. So the whole complete offer is there. And then the 4 that I broke apart from within it are there. Again, those other documents that we started with are not there because I voided them. And we don't really want a void contract here. I wouldn't delete a void contract from my room just in case something comes back later and someone says, you know, accuses us of a mistake or something like that. We can still have those original files in the room to refer back to. So yeah, I'm clicking purchase and sale, and there it is. If I was to click on it, it would load the purchase and sale for me to be able to review it. And you can notice now that I have attached a document, it only takes 1 document. I now have the ability to submit it to my market center. And when I submit to my market center and wait, compliance will get back to me. And right now, this stage just here says open. It just means that it's open, and I'm the only one that really knows about it. Once I hit submit to market center, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to confuse them. That will then say submitted in gray. Once they've reviewed it, it will get changed to one of 2 things. It will say read and returned, and there'll be a little text message type icon next to it, and you'll click it, and there'll be a message from compliance letting you know what you need to fix. If all of your documents are good, it will be green and it will say approved. Just know very few people are ever approved the first time they submit a set of documents for a contract, because there's always a few documents missing. Maybe you haven't done your 118 yet for a closing. Maybe you don't have the wire fraud disclosure signed, things like that. We still want you to submit it to compliance so that we can start reviewing those documents as soon as possible for you, okay? So just know when we return it, or when compliance returns it, no one's yelling at you, you're not in any trouble, just go ahead and fix. They're usually not even mistakes, you're usually just missing certain documents. You can see right here, these ones that are required, like wire fraud disclosure, telling the buyer or seller, I will never send you wiring instructions. So if you get an email that looks like it's from me, telling you to send money here, it's a scam and it's not me. So do not sell it, and that document will protect you. If you don't get it signed, 1, you won't get your paycheck because you got to be compliant with your documents in order to get paid. Again, that's for your own protection. We get audited, and it's not fun to be audited, but we know when we do have an audit that we're safe because we have a big compliance team that can checks all of your documents. Okay, so that splitting, it was all pretty easy. Again, you know, there's the merge feature there as well. once you've checked several documents, that is the combine feature, and it will combine them together. So that is the basics of Docusign. Did you guys have any questions of what we walked through today when it comes to pulling in your documents, connecting anything, or sending out for signatures? And I promise you guys, once you've written the contract a couple of times or done this a couple of times, you're really clicking through fast. I tried to be as slow as possible today, so hopefully I was not going too quick for you guys. Yeah, exactly. Practice it. No matter what you do inside of Command, you should always have yourself in there. So, we have a KW email address, and we all have a personal email address. So go ahead inside of contacts and add a contact, name it, Stuart Heath Test, put in your personal email address, and then you put yourself on Smart Plan, see what it looks like when you receive it, text yourself. Go ahead and send yourself, practice writing some contracts. I love you said you need to practice that. Guys, our job is to practice it. In bold, one of our bold coaches once said, don't practice on a live patient. And what he meant by that is a doctor, the first time they do a surgery, it's not on a live patient. If it is, that patient would probably be very unfortunate. They practiced and they practiced. And so practice on ourselves. We may mess something up the first few times we write it. Get with your productivity coach. They would love it if you said, hey, I just wrote a fake offer for myself because I want to learn this. Will you just review it for a minute or two to make sure that I did it correctly? They would absolutely love that. Yeah, the tag feature, the pre-tagged roles, that pre-tagged roles just there will save you, 5-6 minutes alone. Not only that, let's talk about the property seller's disclosure on page, I'm not sure what page it is, one of the back pages where it says check what boxes, or check the box where the item stays with the home. Do we want to drag over 100 tiny little check boxes? We don't want to do that. If we select pre-tag roles and tell it who the seller is, Docusign's already mapped all of these contracts. So Docusign knows to go attach little check boxes on every single option on that page. So the seller can then just check, 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 check. That alone will save you about an hour on a property disclosure. No one wants to be dragging across. So again, a really small little feature, but one that will save you a lot of time for sure. I love that. Any other questions that we had? Let's see, Christine. Okay, good. So, Christine, Christine, you are on a team. And so right now I'm not in a team account. And so I'll look slightly different in the top right. But if you click, and it's great that your team has done that, by the way, and I'll tell you why. If you click on your top right, you're going to see that you have a personal account and you have a team account. And so what your team has done, your team has disabled your personal pipeline, because when you put things in your personal account, the team can't see anything.
Okay.
And what happens a lot is buyer's agents or listing agents on team, they create them in their personal account and the rainmakers can't see them. And then they say, well, can I just flip it to the team account? And the answer is, unfortunately, no. You need to archive that whole opportunity and start it in the team account and redo it. So with that feature, you can't make that mistake of creating the opportunity in the wrong account. It will always be in the right one.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's a function that your rainmaker can select, and all rainmakers should be selecting that function, because your team lead wants to see the activities that you're doing. So yeah, perfect. I'm glad that is what the solution was. Cool. So again, I'm just going to bring up these two little images just here. You can scan them with the QR code, and I am about to drop the links into chat as well. That first one's going to be our Google Drive, where you can go see all recordings. That there is our Facebook page as well. And so, same link as what you'll get if you scan those QR codes. Join our Facebook page. We have daily videos. We're available in there to help as well and share some successes.